Today we're going to build a weekly notification center inside Notion that is going to give you real-time updates for anything that you want to track on a weekly basis. So like your habits, your goals, your tasks. I have one of these in my personal dashboard page. I'm tracking the one thing that I want to focus on for the week. I can see the 3 different habits that I'm trying to really improve, focusing only on a few at a time. And then for my business, I have my work hours that I'm tracking. How many work hours have I put in throughout the week cumulatively? How many tasks I have done versus what I have left to do. And then just for fun, the things that I like watching on TV, or I have a formula here saying, you've watched nothing so far because I really haven't had time in the evenings lately to set up a Netflix show. This is like your own little personal assistant that's going to let you know at a glance how you're doing in the areas that matter to you. We're going to go through some examples and build one together, and I'm going to give you 5 different notification examples that you might want to use, but know that this is subjective. We're all wanting to track different things. So take the principles that I share here, pause the video as many times as you need to be able to get the formulas, but you're going to be able to customize it to the things that you specifically want to track. This specific use case is going to be a little bit more advanced. So know that we're going to dive straight into relations, roll-ups, and we're also going to have some formulas. But before we dive in, if you're new here, my name is Kalyn, and I'm so excited to have you here watching this video. I think if you really dig all things Notion, planning, productivity, etc., you are going to love the rest of the videos on my channel, and so I invite you to subscribe and stick around. For this build today, you are going to need at least 2 different databases. So a daily journal database, which you can see I have an example here on the right-hand side, and a calendar week database. So I'm going to go through 5 different notification examples of things that you may want to see on your weekly notification center. Again, it's subjective, but you can kind of use the principles that I share today to be able to aggregate the information that you actually want to see. But before we do any of those notifications, we have to first make sure that the daily journal and the calendar week talk to each other. And we can do that via a relation property. So I'm going to go into one of these daily journal pages, and I'm going to add a property called relation, and I'm going to connect it to the calendar weeks database. So we'll add a relation. Let's show it on the calendar weeks as well. Add relation, and then we can choose the week that we want this to relate to. So you will have to manually choose the calendar week for all of these daily journal sections for every single week. So I'm just going to bulk select these and go to the 3 dots, edit property, and click calendar weeks and attach that page to all 4 of those at once. Now, something that is like caveat and like side note, if you have the 6-week sprint goal planner, this happens automatically for you. And it's really nice because you don't have to choose which week relates to which day based on the formulas that I have embedded into that template. However, it is going to be a little bit of a different approach. It's going to be more of a formulaic approach than the roll-ups approach that we're going to do here. We're rolling up that information, and on the 6-week sprint planner, if you want to do a weekly notification center with those databases that are located on there, then you will have to use formulas to make those extra connections. But I do have a tutorial and some instructions for you that you will find on the 6-week sprint planner updates page, just so you know how to do that a little bit differently. But again, only for people that have that template. So if you don't, then you can continue to follow along with this tutorial. Okay, the first notification that I want to do is to count how many workouts that we have done this week. So I'm going to go into this week's calendar database, and we can see all the daily journal entries there. And if you want, we can do this a little bit later. You can click on that and property visibility, and you can say always hide if you just want to like get those out of there and you don't want to see it. But we're going to add a roll up property because now that we've related the daily journal, we can actually roll up that information. So we'll add roll up. And I'm going to call this a workout roll up because we want to know how many workouts we completed in the week. The relation I'm going to select is daily journal, and right now you can see the names coming in, but that's not the information that we want to see. So let's change the property to workouts, and now you're seeing the 3 workouts that we have done. However, we still don't want that. We want to count the number of workouts that we have done for the week. So instead of calculate show original, we want to do count any values that are not empty, which is going to give us 3 workouts, which is correct because we've completed 3 workouts this week. However, this is a number that's just floating around without context, and so we want to give it that text that you saw on my page where I said we've completed, 4 out of 5 workouts. So let's add some text to that, and we're going to do that via a formula property. So add a property, formula, and we're going to call this workout text. So when you add text to a formula, you actually need to put it within quotation marks for Notion to read it correctly. So we're going to do a quotation mark and we're going to say you have completed, actually, we'll just say you've completed, whoever says you have. I don't know people who say you have anymore. You've completed, and then I'm going to do a space so that they're not like kind of all crunched together, and end with an end quote. Use the plus sign because I want to add this text to our workout roll-up property. So plus workout roll-up, and then we're going to add text on the end. So you've completed the specific number 3, and then workouts. So that now this should say you've completed 3 workouts. And we can go on the personal dashboard page, and that is the property that we want to show. So I can do the 3 dots, go to the properties and toggle on workout text. You've completed 3 workouts. Now, if you want this to be fun and add an emoji or something to it, you can do that within the quotation marks. So you can get emojis on a Mac with Control-Command-Space. You can also go to the Emojipedia website and copy and paste there. So let's add one of those. Add an extra space, and now it just gives it a little bit of pizzazz. And sometimes it takes a minute to update. Okay, there we go. You've completed 3 workouts. We got a fun bicep. Now, something that is totally optional, but it does require a different database, is to have a habit target. So whereas on my page, I said I've completed 4 out of 5 workouts, 5 workouts a week is my target. So if you want to do that, then you need to have an additional habit target database. So under here, I have as an example, workouts in a column. This is just a number property, and I have put in the number 5. This is the target that I want to shoot for every single week. So if we're going to have that show up on our week where you've completed 3 out of 5 workouts, we have to relate that database as well. So let's go into the week and add another relation property. And this one is going to be the habit targets. So we'll add that relation, and then we need to connect the page. So amount per week. Now this is something that you're going to have to connect every single week manually if you want the habit targets to show. However, a little trick for you is to add it to the template so that anytime you create a new calendar week, it's going to show up automatically. So in here are the templates via the drop down of the blue button. And then the 3 dots, I already have a template add calendar week in here. You can create a new template, you can edit this template, and then I'm going to fill in habit targets with that amount per week. So that every time, again, we create that week, it's going to automatically have that page linked to it. So that's going to save you a lot of time to be able to do that automatically. Now we need to grab the information, the target information for our habit. So let's add another roll-up property. And we're going to say this is, what are we working on? Workout target. There we go. Okay. The relation is going to be habit targets instead of daily journal because we're going from a different database. And then under property, we're going to select workouts. And then we can say calculate show original because that is a number. Now we can go and add to our workout text. We can add to this formula. So after workout roll up, I want to do another plus sign, but I want to have that slash command in there. So I'm going to do that in quotes and then add another plus sign and choose the workout target. So now you can see here the text says you've completed 3 out of 5 workouts. So that's how you do the number of workouts that you want to do a week. and then compare it to the target. And that should show up on the personal dashboard page under week, and it does. So that's our first notification. Now the second notification example, we're going to count how many times that we have made the bed this week. So this is for like a habit that you would check off on a daily basis. And it's going to be very, very similar to what we have already done, but it'll just give you some good practice. So let's go into this week again. And now we need to add a roll up that is rolling up the make bed information. So we will go back to the daily journal, and then we will select the make bed property. And now it's just showing the like check marks, and we want to actually count how many of those are checked. And you can see here we have 3 of those. So now let's add text to this. Let's make this say something. So we're going to add another formula property, make bed text, edit formula, and let's see, we'll give this a bed emoji and say you've made your bed. And then we need to find that roll up, make bed roll up. Make sure you're adding those plus signs in there to attach the property to the text. And then we're going to say times this week. Hit save. And now it says you've made your bed 3 times this week. So now we can go over to the personal dashboard, the 3 dots, properties, and choose to show that make bed text. And you could do the same thing. I'm not going to take time to do this here, but you could also do the same thing that we did for the habit target to make it say you've made your bed 3 out of 7 times this week, or whatever target you wanted to have down here. In the habit targets database, to be able to add new targets for your habits, you're going to just add a plus sign and then do a number property, rename it however you want, and then just put in the number of the target for the habit that you're wanting to track. For our third notification example, let's do something a little bit different. So let's count the different type of TV shows that we have watched throughout the week on our weekly notification center. So to do that, you're going to have some sort of entertainment database. I have an example one down here where I have 3 different TV shows. Let me know if you watch or love any of these. And what we need to do is we need to apply them to a daily journal entry. So let's say on Thursday, October 31st, we watched Ted Lasso. And then the day before, we also watched Ted Lasso. And then we switched it up and watched a rerun of The Office. So now this is showing down here that we have got 3 different daily journal entries related to these specific TV shows. So we're going to have to go into our week database, and we're going to add a roll-up property of all the shows that we have watched this week. So add a property, roll up, and we'll just say entertainment roll up. And we need to go to the daily journal relation, and the property we want to roll up is entertainment. Now, this is currently calculating show original. So you can see that it's got Ted Lasso twice and The Office once. If we want just one of those appear, we don't want to have like duplicates, we need to say show unique values. So just make sure that you change that when you do this roll up property. Now we want to make it say something like you have watched these shows. So we're going to add a formula property and add some text. So this will be entertainment text. And in this formula, we'll do a little popcorn thing, popcorn emoji. And you've watched the plus sign to be able to attach that property and grab the entertainment roll up. And that's really all that we need to have. So you've watched Ted Lasso and The Office. Over here on the personal dashboard, we can show this property, but maybe we want to do something a little different, because what happens if we take these away? So we say that we didn't actually watch anything this week. So you saw on my personal dashboard page over here, you've watched nothing so far. To be able to do that, we need to have an if condition. So this is going to be a little bit more advanced than what we've been doing so far. But let's get all of these out of here just so we can start from scratch. And it's just saying you've watched, and it doesn't have anything there. So let's go back into this week and make this an if condition. So we're going to start with if the entertainment roll-up is empty. And to say that it's empty, we can do a little dot and empty. Then we do a comma. So if entertainment roll-up is empty, then we want it to say, and I'll just copy and paste this, you've watched nothing so far. And then a comma to say otherwise, what do we want it to say? Otherwise, you've watched, and then the entertainment roll-up, and then let's close that out. So you can see now it's saying you've watched nothing so far. Go back to the personal dashboard. Let's refresh this and make sure it shows up. And it does, you've watched nothing so far. Now let's add a daily journal entry to Ted Lasso and see what it says. You've watched Ted Lasso. So that was applying an if condition to that formula. If you wanted to roll up the things that you watched, the things that you read, whatever you wanted to keep track of. For notification number 4, let's display our one thing for the week. So our main focus for the week that we wanted to see displayed on our weekly notification center so that we're always reminded that that's the thing we need to focus on. So we're going to go into here, the week's database again, and we're just going to add a text property. And I'm going to name this my one thing. So that here you could just literally list out your one thing. So I want to practice, this is what I'm currently working on, practice my evening routine 5 times this week. And what I could do is I could just show that property of I want to practice my evening routine this week. But it's kind of all like mushed together. So we could style this if we wanted to. We could go into this section and add another formula property, kind of like we did to the other texts. So let's just say my one thing text, edit the formula, and maybe we want it to say my one thing in all caps. And then we wanted to style this a little bit. So we gave it a style formula, which is the dot style, and we wanted it to be bold, which would be a B for bold. And yeah, let's just leave it bold. So my one thing plus what we said for our one thing, which is going to be my one thing text. And then we can style that one, let's say pink. So I'm going to do a dot style. Let's also make it bold and comma, let's also make it pink. So there's some fun different styling options that you can do for that. So now let's save it. And you can see here my one thing, I want to practice my evening routine 5 times this week, which is a lot prettier than just plain text. So what you could do is you could have the text every single week that you fill out, but then you also have it formatted. So I'm going to go into personal dashboard, and instead of showing my one thing text, or sorry, my one thing with the text property, I want to show the formula property called my one thing text. And I'm going to move this up here, and it just calls it out a little bit more. However, it is scrunched, or it is cut off, so we're going to need to go into properties and then wrap in view, and it will show that view for you. I promise that we are going to get to dividers and headers and spacers and be able to make this weekly notification center a little bit more aesthetic, but I've got one more notification example that I want to do that you may want to apply to your weekly notification center, and that is to see a roll-up of the tasks that you have completed and the tasks that you still have remaining for this week. And so to do that, we're going to have to relate a master task list database to our calendar week. So let's go ahead and do that first. So I have a task database example down here. So I'm going to add a new property to that, a relation property, and I'm going to relate it to calendar weeks. and add relation. And now I need to choose the week that corresponds to each of these dates. So this is something that, again, in my 6-week sprint goal planner will happen automatically, but it does require some extra bit of formulas to be able to get the information to show properly on your weekly notifications center. Whereas it's easier to set it up through this way, but it's also a little bit more manual. So if you want your tasks to show up on your weekly notification center through this system, you will have to make sure that you're choosing the exact week that relates to the date of that task. So let's go into this week and add a roll-up property. And we're going to call this tasks completed. We will select the master task list relation, and now it's pulling in all the tasks that are related to this week because we manually selected the week that these tasks were due. And then for what you want to calculate, we want to actually not calculate the amount of tasks that you have. We want to calculate the amount of tasks that are completed. So instead of the name property, we're going to go into status, and then we are going to say count per group what has been completed. So you can see that 0 out of 3 tasks are completed. And we don't even have to do an extra formula that has that slash in there. It does it already for you based on that status property. But we do need to add a text formula property to basically add some context to those numbers. So let's add a formula and go into tasks text and say, well, first let's do an emoji in there first. You have completed, and then we're going to do the plus sign and then tasks this week, and then we'll end quote. So you have completed 0 out of 3 tasks this week. And then when we go over to our personal dashboard and show that on here, we're having so many properties that now I'm having to kind of work through. Okay, task text, that's what we want. Then you will see it automatically change based on, okay, watering the plants. We have already done that. So now it says you've completed 1 out of 3 tasks this week. Now that we've gone through all of those notification examples, it's time to add our headers and dividers and spacers and really make this look a little bit better. Like, it's fine as is. You could totally use it like this, but if you want something with a little bit more space, more aesthetically pleasing, like I have on my personal dashboard page, that's what we're going to talk about next. So let's first do this little divider section that I think is really nice between the dates of the week and the my one thing section. So we're going to add a property, and this is just going to be a text property, and we'll just say divider. And then what we need to do is do however many, dashes you want to be part of that divider. You usually do like 3 or 4. And then you can go over here and show that property. Go down to divider, and then we can drag it up underneath that calendar weeks or dates section. However, if you want this to show week after week and you don't have to put in that divider every single time, then you want to make that part of your template as well. So clicking the drop down here, going into your template, and then in divider, just adding that there and making sure it will show up every single week. If you want to add headers, that is going to be another text section. So we'll open this up and add a text property, and we'll just call this habits header. And we'll go in here and we'll write habits, and I'll do it in all caps. I can also style this just by highlighting it, and then you have a little style menu come up. So let's just make this pink. Let's make it bold. And again, if we want this to show every single week, we need to add it to our calendar week template. So I'm going to do that right now so I don't forget. Habits header, there we go. So it will show up every single week. And then you can show that header by going into the 3 dots again. You're so used to this by now. Going into properties and finding the habits header and then dragging it to where you want it to be. So let's go above the workout text, and I'm going to move the entertainment text down here. Actually, the only habits are like the workouts and making your bed. So I'm going to time lapse and go really quickly and add just a couple more headers, and then we'll pick back up with spacers. Okay, so you can see that everything is pretty crammed still. So let's add some spacers above the headers to space this out a little bit. We're gonna add the spacer as a formula property, so you will not need to add this to the template every single week. It will just recur automatically because it's a formula. And so we're gonna do the quotation mark, a space, and another quotation mark just to show that it's going to be a spacer. That's how you do it. And then in the personal dashboard, I'm going to toggle that on so we can see it and put it up over the habits header. So you can see that it separates that out. So we'll duplicate this a few more times and then just keep naming them, consecutively numbers, spacer 1, 2, and 3. I think that's maybe all that we need. Make sure we toggle those on. So that's what it should look like. And if you wanted to, you could also make the one thing a header. So like over here on my page, I have it matching the header and then just pulling in the text of my evening routine. So you can totally do that as well. I'm not going to take the time to do that today because this is already like a really long video. But you can see how that weekly notification center comes together by just aggregating the information that you want to see on a weekly basis from a variety of databases. One quick thing I want to show you before we wrap up. The week page can just look a little crazy, right? You're like, I'm not even knowing what I'm looking at here because there's so many formulas and headers and all that stuff. So you can go through and hide everything that you don't need to see. So I'm going to click on Daily Journal, Property Visibility, and I'm just going to say always hide. The divider, I don't need to see, always hide. And I'm going to go through these and just hide everything that I don't want to see. I do want to see the text. I think that would be nice. Habit targets, I don't need to see this. So I'm going to go through quickly and hide all of these and show you what it looks like when that is done. Okay, I think I got all of them. So I'm going to say hide 16 properties and then I can rearrange them. My one thing is up here. My entertainment is down here, workout, make bed, and that cleans it up. So it's a lot nicer so that if I'm ever going into that page, I can see it a little bit better. Although I still think this weekly notification center out here is a lot more fun to look at than the actual calendar week page. There are so many different use cases that you can do for notification centers. So you could have a notification center on your finance page, which tells you like how many days you have until your next bill due, or what percentage of a debt that you have that you're paying off. You could even, well, I have one in my Christmas planner page where I'm showing the budget for your whole entire gifts and recipients to say like, okay, this is my budget for this year and this is how much we have spent so far. This is how much I have left to spend for Christmas. So you can put notification centers on practically anything that you want, just like a little box, a little at-a-glance view of the information that you want to see presented in a really nice and aesthetically pleasing way. This is just another point for Notion because you can customize this however you want. It does take a little bit of time to set up in the first place, just to kind of think through what you actually want to see or need to see. So I do recommend that you just take out a scrap piece of paper or jot on a notes app on your phone and just say, what are the things that I want to see at a glance on my personal dashboard page or my finance page or wherever it is that you have these different dashboards? What information do you want to see? And then you can figure out how you need that information to display based on the databases you need to relate to, the information that you need to roll up, and then how you want to format it with the formulas. Thanks so much for watching this video. And if you enjoy building in Notion with me, I have a subscription tracker build for you to watch next. It's going to organize all your recurring bills in one place so you don't forget what you're paying for.